The day started out bright and clear as the four friends, Sarah, Mark, Ethan, and Emily, set out on their long-awaited hiking adventure, seeking the thrill of the unknown. They had marked the winding trails through the mountain forests on their map and packed their bags with snacks and flashlights, eager for adventure. As dusk fell, they realized they had lost their way. The trees and boulders all looked the same. They tried using their compass but only seemed to go deeper into unfamiliar territory. Deep in the heart of the dense, ancient forest, as twilight descended, they stumbled upon an enigmatic cave system concealed beneath the thick canopy of trees. The cave mouth gaped open, dark and foreboding. But the night air was turning cold, and they needed shelter. Their flashlights carved through the shadows, revealing a labyrinth of narrow passages and yawning chambers. An unspoken excitement filled the air, blending with the damp aroma of moss and earth. The entrance yawned wide, inviting them to unravel its secrets. As they ventured deeper, the tunnel's walls closed in, darkness pressing against them like the weight of an unseen presence. Claustrophobia gnawed at their nerves, amplifying the sound of each footstep, echoing in the confined space. Pacing cautiously, they could feel the cave's icy breath on their skin, heightening the tension that clung to the darkness. They ventured farther into the cave tunnels, trying to escape the cold. Suddenly, a distant whisper resonated through the tunnels, weaving through the air like an ethereal melody.
Did you hear that?
Sarah's voice quivered as she exchanged anxious glances with her companions. The flickering light revealed elusive shadows flitting across the walls, creating an unsettling dance of darkness. "Who's there?" Mark called out, his words swallowed by the eerie silence that followed. In a chamber with walls lined with glistening crystals, the friends encountered a maze of passages that twisted and turned. The air grew colder, numbing their fingertips as they brushed against the smooth, icy surfaces. Pacing quickened, breaths visible in the frigid air, yet the exit remained elusive. Spiders, their eyes reflecting the dim light, skittered across the rocky floor, adding a layer of visceral fear. The friends shrank back, their flashlights revealing webs glistening like strands of silver, weaving a tapestry of both beauty and dread. A symphony of arachnid whispers resonated, heightening the tension as they navigated the claustrophobic spaces, dodging the intricate webs. As the friends pressed forward, their shadows flickered and danced on the walls, mirroring their movements. Emily's eyes widened in terror as she caught sight of a silhouette that seemed out of sync with their group.
"Who's there?"
She stammered, her voice trembling with fear. The others exchanged uneasy glances, unsure if their eyes were playing tricks on them. "Hello? Who's there?" Ethan whispered, as a faint, inhuman cackle echoed off the rocks. The cave ceiling grew lower and the walls more cramped with each turn of the path. Sarah gasped claustrophobically, shone her light ahead, and thought she glimpsed a pale face peering back.
"We shouldn't have come here."
Emily whimpered. Her words were drowned in a sudden cacophonous babble of dry, rasping whispers that swirled around the group from every direction. They clung to each other, flashlights trembling through the dark to reveal no sources. The shadows themselves seemed alive, viscous and crawling. Voices begged, cajoled, demanded, "Stay with us. Join us. Mark's voice caught in his throat as the flashlight illuminated an eerie shadow slithering along the clammy walls of the narrow cave tunnel. At first, he convinced himself it was a trick of the light, but as the four friends pressed onward, more unnatural shapes seemed to stalk alongside them, just at the edge of vision. A sickening crack echoed through the cave as the floor suddenly gave way under Mark's feet. His scream faded to a groan as he landed hard on jagged rocks, his ankle twisting painfully underneath him. "Mark!" His friends shouted desperately from the hole he had plunged through. Their flashlight beams didn't penetrate far into the dark void below. Mark fumbled for his own flashlight and flipped it on, revealing a small cavern with another tunnel snaking away, sloping deeper underground. Gritting his teeth against the throbbing sprain, Mark hauled himself upright. He could place some weight on his foot, but barely. The whispering shadows seemed closer here, wavering at the edge of his light. "I see a tunnel down here," Mark called up with a grimace, "but I can't climb back up with my ankle messed up." His voice shook, despite his attempts to keep calm. The three friends looked at each other with frightened eyes as the eerie whispers rose again.
"We'll get you out,"
Sarah shouted, but her confidence wavered. The howls and chuckling shadows revealed nothing ahead but relentless darkness filled with unseen threats. Mark leaned heavily against the cavern wall, probing his tender ankle, peering down the mysterious tunnel and hoping his friends would find a way to him. The flashlight flickered. The cave's darkness seemed to pulse with a heartbeat, each beat resonating through the air. The walls closed in tighter, and the shadows clung to the friends like a haunting presence. Emily pointed out a faint light. It was the beacon of Mark's flashlight as they reached the small chamber he had fallen into. Excitedly, they approached his hunched-over frame, shivering in the dark, cold, damp space. The first to succumb, Mark felt his form elongate into a silhouette, his features fading into obscurity. Panic gripped the group as they witnessed their friend becoming one with the shadows. "Run!" Ethan shouted, his voice cracking. The remaining trio fled through winding passages, the cave seemingly shifting around them. The air grew thicker with each step, making it harder to breathe. Cold sweat dripped down their faces as they desperately sought an escape from the ever-encroaching darkness. Emily, in the rear, lost her footing and tumbled hard, her palms sliding on the gritty, cold stone. Her flashlight dropped, skittered, and ricocheted. Its light cast askew, backlit Emily, leaving her face in shadow. Sarah and Ethan almost reluctantly stopped their flight to return for her. As Sarah's flashlight beam found Emily's shape, Emily felt the cold from her hands shoot through her arms and cascade up her neck and face, down to her toes. Sarah and Ethan blinked in horror as Emily also simply faded into the dark. Navigating through snarls of cave tunnels in search of an exit, Sarah and Ethan squeezed side by side down an implausibly narrow rocky shaft. Jagged walls scraped against them as they contorted forward painfully on raw elbows and knees. The air grew thick with the skittering of invisible spiders, and their flashlight beams faltered in the suffocating darkness. Just as the prospect of being trapped in this crevice forever loomed overwhelming, a glimpse of moonlight shone ahead. Heart pounding with hope, Ethan scrambled desperately towards it.
"Wait up!"
Sarah called as she wrestled to drag herself along, rocks pinning her from all sides. She could see Ethan worming frantically towards the distant speck of light. As Sarah heaved forward once more, the shadows melded with her, transforming her into an ethereal silhouette lost in the haunting depths of the ancient cave. Her screams were cut short. At last, bursting free to open space, Ethan wheeled around in dismay.
"Sarah!"
Only a terrible, muted giggle floated back in answer from the lightless crevice behind. She too had disappeared mysteriously. Shaken, Ethan stood alone on an uneven rocky floor, peering upward to a circle of star-studded sky high above, a crescent moon taunting freedom impossibly far out of reach. Steep, sloping walls surrounded him, enormous and jagged. Far below, an inky black pool of water rippled. The triumph of escaping the tight passage faded, replaced by waves of chilling despair. Ethan faced an impossible choice now in the gloomy expanse of the cavern. If he tried scaling the treacherous rock face, sharp outcroppings and crumbling handholds could mean lethal disaster. But wandering further into the mountain's ghoulish maze might condemn him to be just another lost soul, swallowed by the ravenous darkness. Sarah's flashlight beam, peering from the edge of the crevice, dimmed, then sputtered out, draining the cavern of hope. Ethan scraped desperately towards what now seemed a cruel illusion of escape. Shadows stretched taller, enveloping the rocky walls, seeping from each crevice to converge around the lone, struggling figure. The cave's malevolent presence lingered. It seeped through the survivor's every pore, merging with his essence. A pervasive coldness enveloped him, and he realized escape was an illusion. With a cry of anguish, Ethan's hand slipped from its tenuous notch in the rock face. Time slowed as he fell backwards into the pitiless darkness, rising to meet him. The icy black pool below awaited to swallow him into its depths. In those final seconds, Ethan's eyes widened in alarm as his own shadow on the cavern floor seemed to warp and reach out towards him, merging seamlessly with the shapeless horrors. Then, the moment before vanishing beneath the inky water, Ethan saw clearly the ghastly faces of his friends floating just below the surface, vacant eyes beckoning him to join them in the endless shadows.